So, bit of a disclaimer before the podcast actually begins here. This was recorded on the day before the Super Mario Maker 2 Direct was shown off to the public. So, around the 10-minute mark of this podcast, you're going to hear myself as well as my friend Holden talk about how excited we are for this Direct to be shown off. So, I just wanted to go ahead and give you a heads up in case you were listening and was wondering, wait a minute, this Direct came out on Wednesday. It's Friday. Well, what the heck are you doing? Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much and enjoy the podcast. Hey there, friends, Zach here. So, welcome to my first podcast that I'm actually hosting, and I am joined today by one of my longtime childhood friends, Holden. He's going to be in the background. He's super shy. Don't say anything to him. But yeah, so if you remember from my last video that I had made near the very end, I had promised that we were going to do a podcast kind of going over what we expected to see already at E3 versus what we like to see at E3. So during that video, I had mentioned that I wasn't going to go over all the games that I had expected to see at E3 and what I wanted to see in that video. That's what this podcast is going to be for. Now, it's not going to be super long. I'm only planning on this being around maybe 30-ish minutes. Just to kind of get a feel for how this is going to run. I think it's important that we first talk about, though, Holden, what do you think about the switch from the press conference style Nintendo Directs to the press conference style Nintendo Directs, pardon me, just press conferences in general to the Nintendo Direct style presentations for E3?
I think it's a good direction. It's very more fun. It's a lot more fun, and they're able to just go through things a lot more faster, reveal more things, and you could really like see what the game is because they have like little trailers and stuff instead of just a dude talking about it.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I always kind of found it as a joy when the presenters were on stage, just kind of hearing what they were talking about. But I feel like at the same time, I wasn't really seeing games as much as I was just hearing the person on stage and seeing the guy on stage. Now, it's always a joy to see, Reggie or Satoru Iwata on stage giving their presentations, but just seeing more game during a presentation, that's what we're all there for. That's what we all want to see. We want to see new information in terms of gameplay on just titles we're excited to see throughout the years. And going back to, I think we started back in 2013 with the Nintendo Direct style presentations. What are your thoughts on how they went about it the first time? So just as a reminder, the 2013 Direct was when Satoru Iwata was hosting it, kind of in a conference room. The game they started out with was Pokemon X and Y, and they ended the presentation with Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS and Wii U. How do you think they made the jump?
I don't actually remember a whole ton, but I do remember the Smash Brothers reveal. Like, of course, everyone does. But I feel like they've definitely improved since then. It's less about like the president of Nintendo and more about the games, which is great.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like around that time as well, Nintendo Directs weren't really at their prime, because if we look at Nintendo Directs today, it's crazy to see how popular they are. Right after one happens, it seems like the fan base is just waiting for the very next one. They're just itching to see new information already. But back then, I feel like we weren't as excited for Nintendo Directs as we are this year.
Oh yeah, you could definitely see like everyone's like, when's the next direct? When's the next direct? And it's like a thing now.
Yeah, just the hype built around all of them is just amazing. Now, going to this year's E3, obviously they're not going to change anything. We can expect to see, I'd say, about a 45 minute-ish presentation. That's how it was last year. But, it's really crazy just to think, it seems like that's a lot of time for Nintendo to fit in all this information for different games, but I don't know. I don't know about you, but it just feels like it's barely any time at all.
Um, I don't think there's a whole ton of games like that are planned for this year, to be honest with you. So I think they'll give ample time and maybe good enough time for like indie games and stuff.
Yeah, and I'd really like to see more indie games at Nintendo's E3 because I myself am a huge fan of indie games and just seeing how they've evolved over the years. One of my favorite indie games is Binding of Isaac, and I've played it on the Switch, and I've loved every moment of it, even if I have already played it on the PC before. But I'm a huge fan of the indie game support on the Nintendo Switch, and I'd agree with you. I definitely like to see more indie support on the Switch on its own. Now, if I remember correctly, I think what they did last year for indie games was they didn't really talk about any of them more than they did just kind of like show a compilation of different indie games. So like they'd show one and then maybe a few seconds of gameplay and then go on to the other. I kind of feel like I feel like I like that a lot more. Granted, I'd like to see people talk about their indie games, but that's why we kind of have the Nindies Direct, which is the Nintendo Directs focused specifically on indie games coming to the Switch. What would you like to see this year for indie games? Like, what are you kind of hoping they'd show off?
For sure, Hollow Knight Silk Song. I think that's gonna be the raddest game, just from what I've seen so far of the trailers, and I'm pretty sure it's coming to Switch, like right on release, if not too far out. So hopefully, we'll see something on that.
Yeah, I agree definitely, and I think one of the games I like to see indie game wise is I can't remember if it's on it or if it's on the Switch or not, but is Terraria? Terraria is not on the Switch, is it?
It's coming to the Switch this year. I'm
Okay,
pretty sure.
awesome timing. So yeah, I definitely like to see more information on Terraria because I'm a huge fan of Terraria on the PC, and I'm not necessarily a fan of console controls for Terraria because I have played it on the Xbox 360 when it came out around that time. But I feel like it's gonna be a little different with the Nintendo Switch controls and the Joy-Con use. Now, I'd probably use the Pro controller, but I'd like to see maybe a few exclusive bosses, some new items for the Nintendo Switch. I feel like that'd be really cool for Terraria, and I'm excited to see where it comes along this year.
Oh yeah, and the portability option of the Switch is a major point for me at least. I like to bring it places.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you and I are exact opposites because I'm more of the kind of person who likes to keep my Switch in the dock. I swear at one point it's actually kind of collected dust just because I have not taken it out of the dock because I've been playing it so much on my TV. It's just so cool to see, how developers can think about designing their games based on the hybrid system of the portability and the home console. And I feel like that's going to serve indie games really well this year and for years to come. Now, moving on to games I think we're kind of already expecting to see. We were already talking about just indie games and the likes on the Switch. We can definitely expect to see a good portion of the direct focused on that. I think we can definitely expect to see more information on Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Oh yeah, and for sure Animal Crossing as well. I think that'll
Absolutely,
come
Animal
out.
Crossing. Yeah, absolutely. Fans have just been dying to hear more information on Animal Crossing. I have a personal friend who, I swear to you, he keeps on trying to convince me that we're gonna hear Animal Crossing news before E3 this year. But I'm saying no, man. You got to realize that a game this big and with this much fan support around it, they would Nintendo, if you ask me, would be a little stupid to reveal it before E3. What
Nah, especially with the Mario Maker Direct coming out, it's definitely not going to be revealed like more information before E3 for sure.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, Yeah, like you said though, the Mario Maker. Actually, yeah, funny you mentioned it was just announced today that we are going to be getting a Mario Maker 2 Direct tomorrow, about 3 p.m. Pacific time and 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm pretty excited to see that. That's going to be roughly 15 minutes of information. So. That's kind of gonna be that's more of a that's all folks kind of thing. Like we're gonna see everything we need to see on Mario Maker 2. I think it comes out before E3 if I'm not mistaken. Maybe late June. Yeah, late June. Okay, no. So it's coming out after E3. But I don't really think we're going to see too much information on Mario Maker 2 at E3 just because everything will be revealed at that direct.
The only thing that I that I hope for Mario Maker 2 is at the end of a Super Mario World level, they better have the brr.
Yeah, no, I agree. That would be really really cool. I remember playing Super Mario World just back in the heydays. Just trying to always find a way to get to the very top, and that little jingle at the end was just so heartwarming to always hear. But yeah, that would be sweet, and I definitely like to see more information. Yeah, I guess I am talking about the direct tomorrow, but maybe just more information on the Super Mario 3D World art styled levels. That'd be really cool, and the clear pipes. But anyway, back to the whole E3 presentation because I got a little off track there. So yeah, definitely Animal Crossing. We can expect to see a lot of information on that. If you ask me, what they might do is I can see Nintendo pulling what they did with Smash Brothers last year at E3, where if you remember when they were advertising their E3 presentation, kind of like on that little photo that they created, it was like tune in to blah 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 blah, featuring more information on Super Smash Brothers. And then if you remember, the majority of that Nintendo Direct was solely focused on Smash Brothers. I would not be surprised if they pulled that same move, but with Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I the, Animal Crossing to me though is kind of that you just expect the same kind of game. So I don't know if there will be a huge amount of like new things that they'll add. Um, so I don't know. Me personally, my opinion, I don't think that they'll pull something like that. Maybe like most of it or like half of it, and then they'll have like just new releases on the Switch or something.
Yeah, I can definitely see that because well, as discussed in my video last week, I personally thought that we weren't going to see too much information on new games being released because we know now because the Nintendo's E3 plans were already revealed a few days ago. We know now that they're going to be focusing strictly on titles, well, mainly on titles. I don't know about strictly that are going to be coming out this year. So, but yeah, we can. I don't know. I could see it. I could see it two sides, of the story kind of thing. Where yeah, I could see them focusing the majority of the direct on it, but you've got a very good point where Animal Crossing is kind of the same. I wouldn't say the same exact type of game. Each Animal Crossing has something new to offer, but it's the same. It's Animal Crossing, so to say.
Well, yeah, the what I think is the reason why they don't release like multiple per gen. Like, they could have totally just released two on the Wii because the Wii was such a big console. But they ended up just releasing one. I think they do that because of the jump to a next generation is the only kind of change that you can do by like having just better features because it's like a better console.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now going away, transitioning from Animal Crossing, I think one of the biggest games that everybody, even myself, is expecting to see more information on at E3, Pokemon Sword and Shield. I personally think that these are two super anticipated Pokemon games. I think and I think they're really anticipated too because they're the first actual Pokemon games on the Switch because I don't really consider personally Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee to be actual Pokemon games. Yes, they are Pokemon games, but not in the traditional sense that we're used to.
Um, I hope honestly they do something different with Sword and Shield, because so far every Pokemon except Let's Go, which I commend them for doing something unique. Uh, Even though I don't think it worked out super great, but I hope they do add some kind of feature that defines it. Kind of like I think it was uh, the one after Fire Red and Leaf Green where they had the phone, which was kind of a cool idea, and then they had like the prankster Joey calling you or whatever.
Yeah, no, and just I think one of my favorite like innovative features in a Pokemon game was in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Yeah, just that phone thing where you could every now and then get a call from trainers saying like, hey, it could be like a really random pointless update from a trainer, or if they wanted to battle, they could actually call you and then say, hey, I'm up for a battle again if you want to come and meet me down on Route 2 or whatever it was. Maybe I can't remember exactly if that was in the original Gold and Silver. I don't think so. I can't really say. I haven't played the originals. Um, very guilty of. But yeah, definitely innovation. I feel like they're gonna have something very unique to offer, mainly because they haven't said anything about Pokemon Sword and Shield ever since they revealed it back in like early February.
Yeah, other than the main female being a Scottish and being a big meme.
Yeah, honestly, if I could see that in the anime, that would just be absolutely beautiful. But I know Game Freak just has no intention of that. But yeah, the region looks great. I think we can definitely expect to hear more info on Pokemon Sword and Shield at E3. Probably, maybe not a super huge chunk of info. Game Freak kind of likes to reveal more information on their games on their own time, not necessarily E3. Now, I give the 2013 a bit of an exception because they revealed a lot. Well, talked about, I should say, Pokemon X and Y a decent amount at the very beginning of the presentation, and they a few years later they would reveal and show off Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. During their E3 presentation. So yeah, I think we can expect to see, definitely new Pokemon. Absolutely. I'd love to see the main legendary Pokemon, see what they look like, because that's kind of how I choose what game to buy. I'll end up buying both of them most likely.
I bet it's a sword and a shield.
I'd love to see that. Yeah, absolutely. I think the rumors. Are saying that we're gonna have like the same wolf Pokemon but in different armor because the whole armored Pokemon thing is a big rumor on its own. But we won't talk about that super in depth now. I could probably we may have a future podcast on Pokemon Sword and Shield. But yeah, that's going to be just tons of rumors are flying around for Sword and Shield. I definitely cannot wait for E3 because I want to hear more info. We barely got anything. We know what the starters look like. That's great. I want more. And, the fans definitely want more information. So now moving on, I think another really big game we're going to hear more information on is Super Smash Brothers. And when I say Super Smash Brothers, specifically the second DLC fighter. Now, there's a lot of speculation as to who it can be, Minecraft Steve. But the newest character I've been hearing was Scorpion from Mortal Kombat.
That's a bit of a stretch, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I can see why, just because of Mortal Kombat's very violent nature. Tons of blood. It'd be a bit of a iffy kind of addition. You could now
and their relationship in the past with that on the original Nintendo or like the SNES or something.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, as we know, Mortal Kombat was the game that introduced the ESRB rating just because of how violent its nature was. Now, if we got to remember that, Sakurai was able to add in Solid Snake into Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and it was a bit of an oddball addition because when we think of Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid is a pretty not super violent series, but it's definitely got its moments.
I would say it doesn't really get violent until 4, to be honest with you. And then it gets real weird. but I won't go into that.
Right, right. Um, so I think if you were to add in Scorpion, just throw in his, classic move set, take out the blood, obviously. I don't know, maybe for the final smash you can do something with portals, but I'm not gonna get my hopes up, pardon me, about Scorpion being in Super Smash Brothers. Not really a big thing of mine. Now, I think a lot of people, I know there was a lot of speculation going on about the Battlefield theory, where apparently, quote unquote, Rayman is stuck inside one of the ice glaciers. Now, I love Rayman games, so I'd like to see Rayman in Smash, but in terms of the ice glacier thing, I think that it was just a texture, and that texture, because that texture's been in since the very beginning of Smash Brothers Ultimate. Like, it's been in there since 1.0. So I don't really think we're gonna expect to see Rayman in there. Who would you like to see in Smash Bros. That could be in?
Man, that's a loaded question. Um, Hollow Knight or Isaac, an indie rep. Maybe Hat Girl from Hat in Time or something.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Because now that you mention it, we really haven't had any indie reps in Smash before. I mean, we have had Shovel Knight as an assist trophy, but in terms of an actual fighter, I don't think we've had indie support in the game whatsoever. So seeing an indie character would be awesome. Um, yeah,
Another big one that I would like to see is Rex from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but he has a Mii costume in it. I don't
yeah.
think it's gonna happen.
No, I wouldn't get my hopes up about that because I remember that Sakurai was saying we wanted to add him in, but we ran out of time near the very end, so we gave him a Mii costume instead, and you'd get that if you bought the Fighters Pass for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It would be a great addition, though, seeing another Xenoblade rep in there. Now, if I remember correctly, Sakurai did say that they're going to throw in characters from series who haven't really had a chance to shine in Super Smash Brothers, which, Joker being in Smash Bros., that gave Persona a huge, huge shining right there. I'm actually still trying to tempt myself to play Persona 5 to this day, and I most likely will, but yeah, so it's really a mystery to see, who we're going to see, but I can definitely say with what's the word? I can definitely say with confidence that we are going to see the next Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC fighter at E3 this year.
I've seen a lot of rumors about a Dragon Quest character, but because of the new Dragon Quest is coming to the Switch, or the new old one, the remastered version.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and that's actually a good point because I was actually about to mention that we can expect to see more information on the new Dragon Quest game coming out. And when I saw it at the Nintendo Direct that it was revealed on, I can't remember exactly what the date was of it. I was fairly impressed. Now, this is coming from someone who's never really played a Dragon Quest game before, but I was impressed to see, how good the game looks, first of all, and just what all they fit into it.
Me personally, I'm not a fan of those kind of RPGs, but I think it'd be cool to have another major RPG rep in Smash Brothers as well.
Yeah, I agree. And while I'm also not a fan of those types of JRPGs, I feel like this is going to be a Dragon Quest game that would be a really great start for anyone who's trying to get into the series. So we're going to go ahead and move on to, we kind of talked about what we expect to see at E3. Now, remember, as I said before, this presentation will probably be only about 40 to 45 minutes. So let's go ahead and talk about what we'd like to see at E3. And I'm going to start right off the bat and say that I would love to see either a sequel or an HD remake of Super Mario Sunshine.
Yeah, I think that would be very good. I just don't really see that happening, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's one of those games that I can say man, I really want this, but I don't know if it's gonna happen because, well, they remade Super Mario 64 for the DS, and I can understand why because first 3D Mario platformer. They kind of released it on a bad console, but that's beside the point. I shouldn't say bad console. I guess bad controls. But beside the point, I think I'd really want to see, a Mario Sunshine remake or sequel just because of the nostalgic factor. I mean, personally, it was my very first video game I've actually ever played. So to see a remake or a sequel would honestly just like bring a tear to my eye. Oh, you know what? Funny, I literally just thought of this. We're gonna go back to the what we expect to see at E3. I completely forgot to mention this, but the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake.
Oh yeah. I don't. I want to see that game be good, but so far I don't like the style it's going in. I think it's very not Zelda-ish. You know?
No, I know exactly what you mean. So you're talking about the art style, right?
Yeah, it looks very like indie game, uh, kind of Zelda clone kind.
Yeah, I'd say that the art style has definitely got its mixed opinions. But I think for someone who's really never played Link's Awakening, this is going to be a really great opportunity because Link's Awakening, obviously, maybe I shouldn't say too much because I might spoil it. But yeah, I'm super excited for it. It back in the direct, it only got like a 2019 release date, so I think we can expect to see the official release date for the game during E3, which that'll be exciting to see. And yeah, so I think we can definitely expect to hear more information on that during the presentation. And so now I figure we can go back to what we'd like to see. And while I was thinking about The Legend of Zelda, I don't really I'm not by any means expecting any information, but a new Breath of the Wild style Zelda game.
I think they're working on it. I really do think they're working on it because I've heard something about Miyamoto or someone saying that that's the new direction that it's going to go in. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're working on something, but I don't think they have anything ready for E3 right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if I remember correctly, it was back in January or something where I actually first read the article that they were just then hiring people for this project. So yeah, I'm definitely not expecting to hear any information. I think that's just one of those games, kind of like Mario Sunshine 2, where I'd like to see it, but I can see it not happening. Now, as for a game I'd really like to see that may show up at E3, maybe a remake of no the Metroid Prime trilogy on the Switch. I'm like really hoping that that something is said about that.
I thought they were going to add something like that, Switch.
Well, and I heard about that too. I just didn't know if it was like confirmed or anything. But if I were to see that, because I love the Metroid Prime games. Actually, probably more than the 2D Metroid games, to be honest with you. But playing those on the go would be awesome. But yeah, I definitely love to see more information on that. Obviously, we know Metroid Prime 4 has been restarted in development. So obviously, don't expect to hear anything about that at E3. I knew they were going to say something about it at E3 until I read the news that they were going to restart development. But it's definitely for the better because they got the original studio who worked on the original Metroid Prime games to come back and work on that some more.
As we're talking about like remakes and re-releases, I would really like to see the Spyro trilogy on the Switch.
That is a huge plus, yeah.
Reignited. I really hope they say something about that at E3.
That would be really good. I definitely am a huge fan of the Spyro games. I've played so many Spyro and Crash games, and I did purchase the Crash Insane trilogy on the Switch, and I loved every moment of it. And I was hoping, man, I hope we get this Spyro Reignited Trilogy right on the Switch. That would be awesome. So I could have that added to my collection as well. So yeah, that would definitely be really, really cool to see.
Like they CTR, the Nitro Fueled, the remake is coming to the Switch and is confirmed to release on the Switch as well as alongside the other consoles, which I think is silly that they don't have Spyro yet. I know it was developed by another team. I think it was Toys for Bobs or something, but I think it's still owned all by Activision. So I don't know why they don't just do that. It would sell so much. I think it would do very well.
It's definitely, I feel like at this point, just releasing any big name game on the Switch is a huge, you know, business achievement, because I feel like it's going to sell so well on the Switch because so many people are buying a Switch. It's just the sales are growing at a rapid rate. So I definitely agree with you that, you know, it would just help out Activision so well if they were to release it on the Switch. Definitely. They would have my buy. That's for sure. Okay, so yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. So I want to thank you for joining us today. Next week I should have another edited video ready to go. So definitely stay tuned for that. And until then, I hope you have a great night, and I will see you next week. Take care.